Thanks for clicking on the video. Like, subscribe, and share if you find this useful or interesting. In the last tutorial, we created just this curve right here, and we packed a lot of functionality in this. It's a curve controller which has a control sketch that lets us control the overall shape, and then we split it into 3 pieces by placing specific points along it, and we made a start point and an end point and cut points, and then we color-coded the pieces. Let me show you what that is for. I'm going to get out of perspective view here, and here's what it's for. This here shows you 4 of these objects placed around a layout, which in this case is some kind of rectangular. And the edge pieces that we colored light orange, we can now use them to create blends at the corners. And here you see just the blend, and here you see the originals and the blend in the middle. So let's go ahead and create one of these sections. To start with, you should get a copy of the file I created last time. Even if you made your own, I recommend you take mine to move forward, because that way we'll have exactly the same thing. So there's a link in the description. It'll take you to GitHub. Hit download and save it wherever you want. Okay. I'm going to work from my local copy, which has a slightly different name, but it's exactly the same file. So here's where we were last time, and we had created this, and then we had copy-pasted it and moved it around. I'm going to delete this guy, and now we're going to add some more into here. I'm going to make a folder, and I'm going to rename it to utilities. By the way, I do not right-click and use rename. I use the F2 shortcut because we do a lot of renaming, and so we need to be efficient. Hit the F2 key on your keyboard and type in utilities. And don't make spelling mistakes like me. We're going to put that in here. We're going to make a new sketch, which is going to be a layout to attach copies of this curve. Go to Sketch Your Workbench, create a sketch, XY plane, and here try to do your best to do exactly what I do or make it look very similar. I'm going to draw counterclockwise starting from the bottom left. Bottom left is always going to be the start, just like XY is the bottom left of the XY plane, so to speak, if you ignore the negatives. And then I'm going to go counterclockwise here. And I'm not making these vertical or horizontal, and I'm not closing the end. Okay. This sketch, hit F2, call this layout 000. We'll give it a better name later, but this is a decent start. Go to Property View, select the sketch. Make sure that it has high dependence set to false. For me, it's a default, but if yours says true, you should set it to false. And also set auto color to false. And let's hit the layout again. Now let's go back in Property View's view. We're going to do line width 1, point size 2, line color light yellow, point color bright yellow. And I recommend you do exactly the same thing I did, because that way you'll be able to recognize your objects and my objects later on. Okay. Oh, and look, there's still a spelling mistake. Let's fix that. Utilities. Okay. Now I have this layout. Okay, great. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to control copy, leave everything selected here, but make sure this is not checked and this is not checked. Okay. And now I'm going to paste 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And I'm going to hide the original. Open the first thing we pasted, open its control sketch, and drag this point here, the black point, which remember we said is the start, and place the sketch kind of like this. So what we want to do here is we want to match this point to this side and this point to this side. First off, we need to make a reference inside the sketch to this line. So I use this tool and then I hit this line and put in just one reference. Then I'm going to select this point and this point. Remember, this is the one with the black outline. And I'm going to either hit this icon here or just type the key C. Okay, now I want to align the other end, but I have this length dimension. I'm going to delete it, select this point, hit type C. And now everything has completely snapped in. Close it. Hide the control sketch. Close the folder. Open the next one. Edit the sketch. Drag it out so we can see it clearly. And now it's very important. This next start point should be on the end point of the previous one. And we're going counterclockwise from the bottom left. So I need a reference to this line. And then I select this point, and hit the C key. This point, and this point. Oh, I can't do that yet because I still have the dimension. I'm going to delete that dimension, select the points again, type C, and now I have the curve. Notice that because I had the original curve kind of like a smile, I automatically get these curves to be on the outside as I map them. So here, hide the control sketch, close the folder, next one, open the sketch, drag it up here. Now there's a temptation to say, oh, I'm going to put this point here and this point there. We don't want to do that. We always want to go start point to end point. So I'm going to turn this around, drag it a little bit, make my reference to the layout, take this point, the black one, and put it on here. Remember, I'm moving around counterclockwise. Hit the C key, delete this dimension, drag this out and put it close to where we want to go. Select 2 points, hit the C key, and hide the sketch. Now close the folder, open the sketch. Here I'm going to drag this out to here. Actually, let me show you why I have this dimension even though I delete it. I have this dimension because I don't like the way it stretches if I drag by 1 point. It's not a big deal. You could work with it, but I just like having the dimension because that way it moves very predictably. Make the reference, select the black point, this point, hit C. Now I delete the dimension, pull this over, this point, type C. Close this, hide the control sketch, close the folder, and now we have attached 4 curves to the layout. It's important to see that this layout here has 4 lines right now, but it could have as many lines as we want. As a matter of fact, that's where we left it open, so we can keep adding more lines without breaking the sketch. Whereas the these control sketches are very, very specific. These control sketches define the curve. And this layout is a helper. So the layout is not really part of Silk, it's just how I like to structure things. Whereas the control sketch is basically already Silk because it has to be exactly one thing. Okay, so now let's close this again. Actually, hide this, close this again. Let's edit the layout. Now we can move these points around and basically do whatever we want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start putting some dimensions on here because I don't like things to be floating around too much. Okay, notice also that when you move this, these curves can flip. It's not hard to fix. It's a little bit annoying, but that's about as good and as stable as we can get FreeCAD to behave. So let's start dimensioning this. And I always want to use the constraint lock because the constraint lock here, it's -90. I can make it +60 and it works. This is the only time the dimension tool will allow you to flip negative and positive. So I'm going to go -100 for this one. And this one here, -150, close to where it was. This one here, dimension, constraint, lock. I'm going to make this symmetric for now, but remember that we are not forced to remain symmetric later. This one minus 100, like we did on the left. Then this point right here, constrain lock. I'm going to make this 300, this 100. Over here, the shortcut for constrain lock is KL. So here I'm going to go minus 100. And this one, what did I do on the other side? 300. And then this last one here, I'm going to leave dangling. Because we're leaving it open on purpose, it's fine to leave this one floating. But having all these dimensions in here is going to be useful, because that way we won't have to create them every time. We'll be able to come in and just edit them. Okay. Dimensioning the layout flipped these curves. Let me show you real quick how to unflip them if that's what you want. I hit this curve. It automatically opens this folder. I look all the way to the top. I find the control sketch. I can't make this dimension negative, unfortunately, but I can delete it, drag it out, select the point, select the edge, type D, and make this 30. And that's not hard to do, right? So then I'm going to fix this one. It opened the folder for me. I go back up to the top. I find the dimension. I wish I could flip it, but FreeCAD won't let me, so I just drag this, select the point, select the edge, type D. Oh, it did not select the edge, so I'm going to select it now. Make this one 30 also. Close it. And since I did that, based on the size of the sketch, now I think I also want the distance here to be 30 on these two as well. And there was nothing wrong with having it what we had in the original, but now that we have an actual layout, we can make these dimensions more meaningful. So I'm going to select this one. It opens the folder. Edit the sketch. Make this 30. Select the middle point right here. It opens the folder. Find the sketch. Make it 30. Okay. So when we've opened a bunch of things, an important trick is always close them from the top. And that way it's pretty quick to get done. Let's edit the sketch again. Say for some reason I want to make this 50. Oops, I meant negative 50, but notice that it flipped positive without a problem. So let me make that negative 50. Okay, I can edit this sketch and all these curves will follow, and they'll do so, and they will scale in a reasonable manner. This is really useful early on because we want this section and this group to be as general purpose as possible. Okay, so now we're going to have to reorganize these things because it's a pain in the butt. If I show and hide one group, it shows me everything inside. But that's not really what I want. I probably wanted to see just my final curves, right? And then probably the cut start and the cut ends. Right now, everything is grouped in the order we copy pasted it, but we would really like things to be grouped based on what they are instead. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do that by shifting all of these things into their own folders by type. But before we do that, let me show you a fun part. I'm going to select this corner here, this end piece of the curve, and this one here that touches this corner. I'm going to go back to Silk, and now we're going to use this tool right here. This is the Control Poly 6. It does a lot of things, but right now we're only going to look at one thing it does. What it did is it created this Control Poly 6 Fillet Bezier. Forget about what all of that means except for the part fillet. This took two curves that meet at a corner and it created a fillet control polygon. When I select that fillet control polygon, notice it's Control Poly 6, so I'm going to give it a cubic curve 6, which is right here. And it created this new little curve right here. I'm going to hide the polygon, and you can see that this curve is a good blend that starts right at these points and that cuts out the corner. Let's make a couple more. This is a corner section of curve, create the polygon, and then these two create the polygon. Now I go to the bottom, select the first one, give it a curve, select the next one, give it a curve. I'm going to hide the polygons. I'm also going to hide the layout at this point. And remember, when you've opened a bunch of stuff, close all the folders from the top. It doesn't take that long to do. Okay, so this is neat. I have blended these corners. I don't like the color though. This is the default color, just like we had for the overall curve in the middle section. But I would like to have these three have the same color as the end pieces we made. So use this color, and then we're going to give it a line width of 2. And this is pretty neat. The pieces that we prepared on our original one, you remember we had these little pieces. We had three pieces of curve and two colors. Well, these end pieces allow me to very quickly generate a blend between two curves. Okay, so now I have all the elements I want, but now I need to organize them. And I need to organize them largely by the type of object they are, but sometimes I have multiple of the same type. For example, I have an overall curve and 3 pieces of curve. These are all cubic curve 4. So for the cubic curve 4s, we're going to split them into a couple of different folders. This tutorial is probably already a little bit too long, so I'm going to stop here. We will do the organizing next time. For now, I hope you will enjoy playing around with just this layout and how by changing the values on the layout, you can get your curves to flow around and have fun with them. See right here, this one flipped. Let me unflip it real quick. I click it, it opens the folder. I go to the sketch. I drag it back out. Actually, I can drag it. Here, let's have some real fun. I can drag it back out as much as I want. So you can see these curves can do a lot. So right now, I can't create a zigzag curve because I have all these equal constraints. Later, we'll do that. But for now, let's just leave it as it is. Go right here, dimension tool, 30. Close. Okay, and I'm going to save this file and I'll share it for the next video. I'm going to do a save as because I started with the previous version. I'm going to save as and I'm going to call it curve set. All right, I hope you're starting to see how there's the potential to make some interesting stuff with this. See you next time.